This is my Smart American Accent training. In today's class, I'd like to talk about the different things that the letter T does, the different types of T sounds in American English. So we have flap T, stop T, unreleased T, drop T, aspirated T, all kinds of different things. It's one of the most very typical things about American accent is the way we say T's in the middle, start, and the ends of words, and I'm going to teach you all about it in today's class. Of course, this is also a Q&A session, so if you're here live, you have questions, please put them in the chat and I'll turn to those after our first topic. And if you're watching this later on as a replay, you can leave your questions and comments, requests, etc. in the comments, and I will go back through those and give you resources here on the channel and on our website, speechmodification.com. So what do I mean when I say flap T, stop T, etc.? Basically, if I'm saying the T at the start of a word in American English, it's called an aspirated T. So when I say I've got to get a hotel, the word to is going to have a burst of air, to, or number two. And you can feel that if you hold your hand in front of your face and you say to, you should feel some air there. So some languages use an unaspirated T at the start of a word, and it might sound more like do. No burst of air, closer to a D sound, but a different type of T. So typically, if I'm saying a word like take, tell, talk, I need what's called the aspirated T. Most speakers of other languages use that aspirated T, and in British English, they'll use that aspirated T in other places as well. They might say water or get a. But in American English, we change those T's that come in the middle and the ends of words when we link them. They don't sound like the aspirated T. So let's look at these phrases, and I'll give you some good examples for these different types of T. So when I say I've got to, I don't make two T's here. It's not got to. I don't have two aspirated T's in a row. Instead, when a T comes at the end of a word and the next word starts with a consonant sound, like another T, I don't let that first T out. So that's what's called a stop T or an unreleased T. So I go up to make the T of got. I've got to. But I don't let it out. I just let this T out, and I have basically one T sound. The difference is, or it's actually a stop T and a release T. So it's not really one T. If I said it with one T, I've got to, you can hear it slightly different. I've got to. We do have the stop and the break from this T, and then the release on the next T. Another good example of that would be here without a T, so same idea. Rather than get some, it's going to sound like get some. That T is basically unreleased. It just releases right into the S sound. Get some, get some. So again, it's called a stop T or an unreleased T. It's unaspirated. I'm going up to make that T and then just moving that right into the next sound. Some people teach this as a glottal T, meaning the air stops in the throat. And I don't always fully make that T by lifting my tongue. I may stop the air further back in the mouth, depending on what's happening next. But I recommend trying it with the T lifting, because if I do got some, I got some, and I'm stopping the air in my throat, it doesn't sound quite the same as get some, where I'm stopping it more close to the position of the T. Pretty technical, but you can get a lot of help for all these different types of T's in the other videos on my channel, as well as in our Sounds of English course, where I walk you through all the different types of T sounds. So back to I've got to get a hotel. This particular phrase, I've got to, or I have to, has its own special sound. So the way I was just describing it with the unreleased T and the true aspirated T here, I've got to, we sometimes change this to gotta, I've gotta. In that case, we're dropping that T and changing it to what's called a flap T. So we always use a flap T when the word ends with a T and the next word starts with a vowel sound. So I don't say get a or get a. That would be a true T or an aspirated T. This becomes get a. I've got to get a hotel. Get a hotel. So get a becomes kind of one word together. The T in the middle gets flapped. It's the same thing we do in words like water or better. Get a. We connect to the vowel sound and we make a flap T there. We can also do a flap T on got to if we change got to gotta. So gotta, we write it with two T's, we say it with the flap sound. So we may change this all the way to I've gotta get a, I've gotta get a. So I've got to get a or I've gotta get a. Two flaps or a stop T. And then finally in the word hotel, here's where we have our true T. That's because in hotel, we're stressing on the tell syllable. So it functions just like the word tell. It's like a T at the start of a word because this syllable is unstressed, so the important part of the word is tell. You can try it by saying tell, hotel. You can hear how that aspirated true T sounds natural in that word. If I were to say hotel with a flap T, it doesn't sound quite right, or L with a stop T also doesn't sound correct. So hotel, most of you are probably saying correct. You just want to make sure that you're stressing on the tell and it has that true aspirated T. So I've got to get a hotel, stop, flap, true T, or I've got to get a hotel, flap, flap, true T. So a lot of dense information there. Take it one piece at a time. Probably the most important one to learn to sound like the native speaker, American speaker, is the flap T, and we use it in the middle of words and as we link to vowels. Next, let's look at get some water. Here we have, again, the stop or unreleased T. So I'm not going to say get some, but rather get some. Go up to make the T and release to the S. And then in water, I'm going to have the flap T again. So I'll rewrite that for you with two Ds. We make a flap when we have two Ds in the middle, like in bedding, two T's in the middle, like bedding with T's, or words like water, greater, greatest, etc. The flap T again, you can learn about that sound, see lots of videos here on the channel, or learn in our Sounds of English course for that. So here we have get some water, unreleased T, and flap T. Finally, when we have NT, sometimes we have some different things. If I'm saying the word don't by itself, you're going to hear both the N and the T, don't. But when I'm saying don't look, because that T is followed by the consonant sound, you're probably going to have an unreleased T. Don't look, don't look. Sometimes we might drop it if we might drop the T in don't. For example, I don't wanna, I don't want to, I don't wanna. Sometimes in casual speech, you'll hear that T just completely gone. Usually what we use here is that stop or unreleased T. Look at the, again, here I'm following my T with a consonant sound, so I'm gonna have the stop or unreleased T. Don't look at the, don't look at the. And then finally, internet. You're either going to hear a true T there, internet, with that T released, or we might drop that T entirely and change it to just the N sound. That sounds like internet. So native American accent speakers will do kind of a combination. They might use the T sometimes, not use the T sometimes. You'll hear internet, you'll also hear internet. So when there's an NT together in the word, sometimes that T is just completely gone. If it's at the end of the word, it follows the rules for other T's at the end. So in this case, it'll be a stop T. But you'll notice this international, internet, Santa Barbara, that the NT can often just become only an N sound in the middle. So a lot of information here about the T's in the middle, the T's at the end. You can ask questions about this topic, or bring up your own questions, comments, words you'd like to hear me pronounce. Let me know in the chat and in the comments what would be helpful for you, and we'll continue our class. Turn to your questions now. So welcome everyone. It's nice to see so many of you here. Again, if you're watching this later on as a replay, you can still participate in class by leaving comments with your questions. I do go through all of those questions, answer them for you, direct you to videos here on the channel or resources on my website to help you, or I might cover your word in a future class or a future video. Okay, nice to see you. We have a question about itinerary. So that's a challenging one for a lot of people, including me. So itinerary. So in itinerary, it's similar to hotel. The tin syllable is stressed, so we have a true T here. But we have some secondary stress on I, so it's not like the start of a word where we'll have the reduced vowel like it, but rather secondary stress, we have the I diphthong. So I'll write that like the I in night or right. So I-tin, stress on the tin syllable. This letter I says the I sound like it. I-tin-er. And then we have an sound or just a schwa with an R. The letters AR in itinerary say the air diphthong. So we have I-tin, or air, E. So our final Y says the E sound. So the reason I wrote it two ways here is that you can think about itinerary or itinerary. Either way, this R connects the schwa and the air sounds. Rare. So I think we tend to use it kind of like the and air together, but for some people that's hard. It's easier for them to say rare than to say rare. So either way is correct, itinerary or itinerary. That's a difficult word. Thank you for bringing that up, and nice to see you again this morning. Okay, we have a question about cooperating. For example, he's not cooperating with the authorities. Yeah, so for cooperate, what we have going on here, cooperating, is that you can think of it almost like the co is a suffix, right? We have operate, starts with ah, so the stress is on the op syllable, just like in the word operate. So in operate, you can think of it as ate or rate. Doesn't make any difference. Again, what we're looking at here is that R links the other two vowels. Operate, or operate. I tend to use this one a little bit more, where I'm just kind of naturally doing the as I link. And then when we add the co, we have the true vowel here, but I'm going from a rounded vowel to an unrounded vowel. So I have to use vowel-to-vowel linking, where it ends up, as I go oa, I end up with a w sound. That's the vowel-to-vowel linking that happens from a rounded sound to an unrounded sound. So when you're trying to say it, you can think of that W there. You probably don't have to intentionally do a strong W, koa. It should just happen naturally as you move from the one vowel to the next. But I like to write it there because I think if it's missing, you'll end up with something that's more like cooperate instead of koa. So you really want to hear both the O and the ah sounds, and they connect with that W. So cooperate. The IPA would be you're not going to see the W in the dictionary. You're just going to see the O and the ah, but I'll write it there. That's what's happening. Cooperate. So cooperate, cooperating, cooperated, all the same stress on the stress on the ah syllable. Thank you so much for your super chat and for helping us reach our goal to do another session tomorrow. I appreciate your support, and it's nice to see you here. You've been here the last few Saturdays as well, so welcome. Let me know if you have other topics and questions you'd like me to cover. We do have a channel member here this morning as well. Welcome to you, and thank you for being a channel member and supporting the channel in that way. Your question is the ah, as in father, the same in the words car, star, and start? So in father, we have the ah sound. It's just by itself. And usually we spell this ah with letter O. So like in the words hot, not, job. Father's kind of an exception. That is also the ah sound. So my father's job, he's not my father. These have the same ah sounds. In the words like car or start, when we have the R diphthong, it's actually this sound. So it's a slightly different ah sound. So if we look at the vowel quadrangle, the ah in father and not in hot is a little bit of a back sound. But the ah that connects to the for R, or that's a little bit hard to read. Basically, the sound is here and the ah sound is here. So as I make R or start, I'm not starting as far back. It's not really ah, R, but more R, R. It's a really small movement. So this sound like this is not a sound we have by itself in English. We only use it in R. It's relatively very, very similar to the ah in father. So you can think of this ah in father when you're trying to do R, but if you do that, it's probably going to sound a little too dragged out, and the R is not going to be small enough. For R, you really just want to use kind of that sound, and then think of dropping the tongue and lifting a little more. So you have R, R. So the R is really just kind of dropping from below rather than being further back like the ah in father. So that's pretty technical. Probably you can think of it as this ah as long as you don't leave the R out, but you don't want to say ka or stat with no sound. We really want to use this R, this full R sound. This ah without the R is the ah of Spanish and some other languages, and our ah is made a little further back in the mouth. Great, good question. I hope that cleared that up for you. Let me know if it didn't. You can leave a follow-up chat. Okay, we have a question about proficiency. So proficiency stresses on the fifth syllable. That means our first O, it may be proficiency or might be just proficiency with a schwa. It's not going to be wrong to think of there being kind of some O sound there, but it's unstressed, so it's going to be very short. So probably better to think of it as a schwa like pra, and then we have the fi syllable. I'm going to write it as fish because that'll help you keep that I sound short. So we have the stressed I. CI says the sh sound like SH. Efficiency. You might see it as a schwa or an I in the dictionary, then the N, S, and the E sound. So proficiency. We need to improve our proficiency and efficacy in this place. Yeah, that's a good word. Thank you for that request. Okay. We have a question about the word hair. So for hair, we have the air diphthong. So for some people, making the difference between hair and air is difficult. You want to make sure you're letting some windy sound come out in the back of the throat. And then for some people, the difference between her and hair is difficult. And in her, we just have the sound. So you can think of it as like bird, or like turn, or like her. All of these are the same, just basic sound, whereas hair has the sliding air. So just like we were looking at the R sliding to the R, for the air, we're sliding from the sound to the So I recommend starting with air and then adding your sound back. So air, hair. If this one gives you trouble, try saying her bird, air, hair. You're trying to make a difference between the sound and the air sound. I hope that helps you with hair. If it doesn't, tell me what you struggle with more specifically with hair, and I can help you with that as well. But I do have some videos here on the channel talking about words with H and without H, and the difference between the and the air sounds, which is typically going to be the problem for those ers and airs. Okay, great. Let's take a look at, we have a question about the difference between trouble and travel in fast speaking. So I believe I may have made a video for you on this if you requested it before. If not, you're not the only one to request it. So basically in fast speech, these are not going to be the same, because in trouble, you're going to have the sound, the schwa vowel. So it's going to sound like trouble, and a B sound. So the B, my lips, both lips close. When I say trouble, my lips close and there's a little bit of burst and release for that B sound. Versus travel is going to have the A sound like cat. So my mouth is more open than it is for the sound, and the back of my tongue is lifted. The front of my tongue is down. Travel. And then when I'm making the V sound, my upper teeth and lower lip are connecting to make a restricted air. So B closes the air entirely, uses both lips. V is the upper lip and the lower teeth. Travel. So trouble, travel. What I would suggest is use something else that has the same vowel sounds, like some, trouble. Match those schwa sounds, those sounds together. I'm in some trouble versus I have some travel. So really working on that av, the a sound to the v, and the sound to the b. Trouble, av, have, travel. Hopefully that helps distinguish those two enough for you. And then in fast speech, you might just have to slow down a little bit on trouble, travel, to make sure that you're getting the b and the v sounds correct, and you're differentiating those two vowel sounds. But I can see why that can give you some trouble making that distinction, because the B and V are very close for some languages, like in Spanish. The B and the V, there's really kind of an in-between sound that's not neither a B nor a V, and you really need to work on separating those two out. Very good. So the easiest place to start when pronouncing cooperate, cooperating, cooperated would be, I would actually practice with the operate first, so that will help you with the rhythm. So start by saying operate, and then add your co on. So I would do operate, cooperate. If this part gives you trouble, I'd also just do coa. Really work on that vowel-to-vowel linking if that is the place where you're finding it to be difficult. And once you have cooperate, then to do cooperated, cooperating, you're just changing aided, aiding from ate. So you can do a little practice of aiding, aided. Yeah, I hope that answers your question about how to get going with that. And then, of course, trying to practice those words in connection in short phrases. I didn't cooperate. He's not cooperating. build up from lots of repetition on the word that's giving you trouble, and then putting it into different phrases so that you can hold on to that new correct pronunciation as you actually need to use it. And for authority and authorities, we have stress on the Thor syllable. So even though this is the same as author with the ah sound, in authority, because the stress is on the Thor, this actually becomes just an sound. It's just a schwa. So authority. And this is a flap T, like we were talking about at the beginning. It sounds more like a D. So authority. And then if it's the plural, ease, you just add the Z sound, authorities. So he's not cooperating with the authorities, the authorities. So this the, because this starts with a vowel sound, is going to have the E sound, the authorities. For your phrase, you might also want to just do backwards chaining. So if you're doing he's not cooperating with the authorities, build from the back. So you would do authorities, authorities, the authorities, with the authorities, operating with the authorities, cooperating with the authorities. He's not cooperating with the authorities. Sometimes starting at the back of the sentence will help you get that sentence stress and get those words. The main stress in this whole overall sentence is on the Thor of authorities. He's not cooperating with the authorities. That's going to be the longest part. Not and op are going to have a little stress as well. He's not cooperating with the authorities. So you can kind of think of this as, this is kind of one group. He's not cooperating with the authorities. So that's where your length is going to happen in that phrase. Yeah, probably a difficult combination to get all of those pieces together, especially if some of the words in that phrase are giving you trouble. Great. We have a question about the word tastes. So this, I do have a video and some practice materials for words that end with the s sounds. Even though there's a letter E here, it's a silent E. That E is just making the A say A. So you'll have tastes. So for this, I typically recommend just building one consonant sound at a time at the end. So I would just start by saying te, making sure you're using that long A diphthong, not te, but te, gliding. And then add your S sound, tase, taste. In this case, if it were just by itself, it would sound like a Z, but it is an S here. So taste, then add your T back, taste, taste. Make sure you're doing the ST. And then finally, tastes, tastes. So what's happening with that st and s together, st, is that basically there's a tiny little stop, and then this T is very short and goes right into the S, tastes, tastes. So you should hear a little bit of break in there. Otherwise, it might just sound like tastes, but you need that T sound to happen, tastes. Yeah, you might want to check out my video for how to pronounce words that end with STS, lasts, firsts, etc. There's a lot of other examples of STS words in that. If you need help finding that on the channel, one thing you can do is go to our community page and scroll across. It says home, videos, etc. There's a search box to the right, and you can put in your word, or you could even type in STS, and videos related to that topic will come up. Or you can leave me a comment on this video or any of my videos, and I'll go through and find resources for you, send you some links to other videos that might help you. And we also cover that topic and all of the sounds of English in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com. So that's a great resource for building the fundamentals to pronounce any word you like confidently and easily in American English, goes through all the vowel sounds, all the consonant sounds, the spelling, the accent error patterns to watch out for, difficult words, lots of resources to help you get very solid and feel confident when you're speaking English. By the way, I want to just mention, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You'll get notified when we do these live classes or when our new videos drop. And it's a great way to kind of stay in touch with what's happening here on the channel. So thank you, those of you who have already subscribed and those of you who've joined as channel members, and a special shout out and thanks to those giving super chats and allowing us to have some extra classes this week. Okay, we have a question about how to pronounce bald. So the AL in bald is the ah vowel, like in ball. So when I say bald, ald, I have kind of an ah, slightly rounded shape for my vowel before my L, all. So what I suggest is trying a phrase like we're all bald, bald. So you'll see it like that. One thing that I hear people struggle with sometimes with this is that they want to do more of an O sound, like in bold, but that will have the O sound. So it'll be old, kind of an O sound with a bold, because it's rounded, more rounded than the ah. It's going to have that kind of extra w sound connecting the two. In bald, I just basically go right from the ah and lift my tongue for the L and D to finish. Ald, bald. It's very bold to shave your head bald. This bald is the same as this bald. Like they balled up the cloth and bald, like no hair. Yeah, a bit of a challenging word, can be a challenging combination of sounds for people. Okay, we have a question about the word amassed. So they amassed a lot of wealth. Stressed is on the mass here. So the letter A says the sound. It's a reduced vowel. And then we have the second letter A is the A, like in cat. And then when we have a word ending with S and we add the ED, that ED is just going to be a T sound. So same as like gassed, passed, amassed. It's basically just the same as the mast, as in a mast of a ship, amassed. And then you also asked about traversed. So here again, because we're stressing on the verse syllable, the first letter A is going to be a schwa, sounds like tra, very short vowel there, and then it's just like the word versed, V-E-R-E-S-E-D, where that ED sound is going to sound like a T as well. So stress on the ver, and then the ED says T. So traversed and amassed. They traversed the globe and amassed a great deal of gold. Yeah, good words. Thank you for that request and that question. If you have more questions or trouble with what ED does at the ends of words, you can check out my videos for past tense verbs. They walk you through the patterns and the rules there, and that can be helpful for some people to understand that when the verb ends with S and you add ED, the ED is just going to say the T sound. Thank you for that request. Okay, we have a question about the word purses. So she has many purses, noun, or he purses his lips, verb, same pronunciation for both. First syllable stress and letters UR say like in person. And then purses, the first letter S is going to be the S sound. The second letter S is going to be the Z sound. So I will write it as purses, with this being long and this being short. Similar to the past tense, when ED can say different things at the end, when we add S for plural, sometimes it'll say Z, sometimes it'll say S. In this case, We have to add a full syllable because when the word already ends with an S sound, purse, I can't just put an S or a Z, purse, purse. I need to add a syllable, purses, purses. So when you see SES at the end, like horses, purses, it's typically going to be an S sound followed by an I and a Z sound. Very good. Okay. What was your question that I didn't answer? So we have, I can go back and check and see. Okay, yeah, sorry, I missed you at the beginning. So thank you for repeating your question. You said, can you pronounce, you were asking about the words entourage and pulchritudinous. Drink or an oil, reservoir, repertoire. Okay, so let me look and see how you wrote your question. So first we have entourage. Entourage. Yeah, I got ahead of myself and I missed your first request. So thank you for sticking with and asking again. So in entourage, in American English, we stress the on syllable. It comes from French and they might stress elsewhere, but we stress on. En, it sounds the same as how we say the word on, which I'll rewrite for you as AHN because that's the vowel. So we have on, to, raj. So I usually write the zh sound as ZH. It's like an SH sound, but my voice is on. Zh. In the dictionary, you're going to see this as on, to, raj. That's the symbol for the zh sound. So that's how we use it for in words like garage or visual. It's a voiced zh sound. So entourage. And then you also wanted to know about pulchritudinous. So in pulchritudinous, we have the stresses on the two syllables. So that T gets a true T, like we were talking about in hotel. You might hear pulchri or pulchri. I think both are all right, pulchri. I'll write it with the sound in the IPA, but I think you can say this as pull or a little bit more pull or pull, a little vowel. So I think there's some flexibility on that vowel, pulchra. It goes by really fast and it's unstressed. So I'll write it like pull, pull, pulchri. This is a I sound. So CH is just a K sound here. K. Pulchritudinous. Nus or nis. So pull, stress on to, nus. Pulchritudinous. Yeah, long one. So that one, you might just want to take it syllable by syllable or start on the stress syllable. Tudinous, pulchritudinous. Yeah, not a everyday word, but a good one to know and to be able to use and pronounce correctly. Okay, and then you also asked about, do I remember the word that I made a video about that has the oi sound that sounds like wa in repertoire and is a drink or an oil in a food? Yeah, I'm not sure what word you're talking about there. Wa. Let me give that some thought. I'll come back to you after class and if I can think about what you're asking about. So you're saying basically there's an OI that sounds like wa, like in repertoire. So it might be another French word, but nothing's coming to mind, sorry. Okay, we have a question about the word shoddy. So for example, you often hear that like shoddy workmanship, poorly done, not careful. And this letter O says the ah sound, shoddy. So I would rewrite it with AH and then my E sound I will rewrite with EE. So you're going to see that as first syllable stress, shoddy. It was very shoddy work. Yeah, good word. Lots of interesting questions and words today. It's nice to see so many of you here. We'll wrap up here for now, but because we reached our goal for Super Chat, I'll be doing another live class tomorrow. So come back to the channel, look for the time. I'll get that set up and put out an announcement on our community page so that you can join again. I'm excited to see you 2 days in a row for live classes. Thank you so much for your contributions, for being a part of class. Your questions, comments, likes really help the channel to grow. And as I mentioned before, when you subscribe, that also really helps the channel to grow, and I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's live class, as well as Tuesday. We'll have a new video dropping. There's going to be no live class next Saturday, but there's going to be a new video dropping. I'm starting a series of more vlog type videos where you can see me out in the world talking about what I'm doing, using new vocabulary and phrasing. So they're meant to be for listening comprehension, for inspiration, for conversation, giving you tips and ideas for improving your English, as well as just getting to know me a little bit more. So I hope you'll check that out. On Tuesday, we'll be talking about baking a pie and learning about different types of communication you can use to talk about explaining and retelling and persuading. And on Saturday's video, I'm going to be going out hiking, and you'll get to see what I think about the weather and hiking, some things in my neighborhood. So I hope you'll check those out. There's a couple sneak previews out right now so you can get a glimpse at what the videos look like, and that'll be on Tuesday and Saturday. Tomorrow we'll have another live class, and I'll be back to doing some live Saturday classes soon, so you can check out the community page and the channel page to see when those are coming up. Leave your suggestions, questions in the comments. If I didn't get to you today, I'll come back and check those out and give you some resources. Thanks for a great class, everyone, and it's nice to see so many of you here. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. SpeechModification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again tomorrow.